Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with warm calamari salad. That's right, as the great chef Mick Jagger once said, you can't always get what you want, but if you try a recipe like this, sometimes you get what you need. Except I didn't want what I needed. I wanted what I wanted, which was a beautifully seared calamari salad. But as you'll see, that didn't quite happen. So while things did not go exactly as planned, let me show you this anyway, because I still think there's a couple valuable things you'll pick up. So let's go ahead and get started. And first up, we have to prep our calamari. So I have 1 pound that's been fully cleaned and ready to cook. Of course, you're going to have a mixture between your tubes and your tentacles. And by the way, this is often referred to as simply squid, or baby squid, or the hip-hop name, which is Lil Kraken. But anyway, like I said, I have 1 pound, which we're going to need to cut up before we cook it. So for the body section, or the tubes as they're called, we're simply going to cut across like this into rings, not too small, at least 1/4 inch. And then as far as the tentacle sections, if they're small, you can just leave them whole. But I generally like to cut the bigger ones in half, and then maybe we'll also separate that long piece. I have no idea what that is, but I do know it's edible. And once our calamari is cut up, we're going to toss that in a bowl where we will add all our seasonings right now. This stuff cooks so fast, there's actually no time to add it to the pan. So we'll transfer that into a bowl, and we'll start with a little bit of vegetable oil, followed by not 1 but 3 kinds of dried pepper. I'm going to do some Aleppo chili flakes. You could certainly do just regular red chili flakes. I'm also going to do some chipotle, which is nothing more than a smoked dried jalapeno. And then lastly, just so we would surprise no one, we'll do a little pinch of cayenne. And then to balance the heat, we need a little bit of sweet. So I'm going to put in about a teaspoon of brown sugar. And then because I had one, I also decided to add 1 sliced jalapeno. I just cut it in rings, so it would be geometrically correct with the calamari. And by the way, I did knock out most of the seeds. And then other than a big pinch of salt, that is pretty much it for our seasonings. So I mixed that up with my freakishly small wooden spoon. And once that was mixed up thoroughly, I set it aside so we could prep the other main component of this salad, the salad. So in a bowl, I'm going to put a couple handfuls of baby arugula, along with some already cooked white beans, which have been thoroughly rinsed and drained. And to that, we'll add some freshly ground black pepper and a pinch of salt. And then as far as the dressing goes, I'm going to go very simple and just use some olive oil and freshly squeezed lemon juice. And what I really wanted this recipe to be was a cold bitter green and white bean salad topped with hot, seared, hopefully charred calamari. But as you're about to see, only half of that plan worked out. So we'll dress our salad, and then we'll get in there with our big hairy paws and give it a good mixing. And once that was set, I divided my salad between my 2 bowls, at which point it was time to sear/char my calamari. And of course, the only way to do that is in a super hot pan. So I took my biggest, heaviest cast iron skillet, I put it on high heat for a long time until it was literally smoking, and I was a little nervous because we had added a little bit of sugar. I was kind of afraid it would overchar, but as you'll see, that didn't happen. So I added my calamari in, and I figured I would let it sit for about a minute just like that, and then kind of stir fry it for another minute, and it would be done. If you haven't worked with it before, calamari cooks super fast, like literally in 2 minutes. But it was right here after that first minute when I started to stir that I realized this is not working. I mean, it was cooking fine, but there was absolutely no color, no sear, no char, no caramelized goodness. So what happened is I just had too much product, which cooled down the pan too much, which prevented any serious searing or charring. But like I said, calamari cooks so fast, there's no time to stop to be sad. So I just kept stirring for another few seconds, and as soon as those rings basically turn from something that looks raw and translucent to something that looks white and cooked, you have to stop and serve immediately, which is what I did. So I quickly spooned that over my arugula and white beans, knowing full well that it would wilt slightly. That was part of the plan. And of course, I'm going to remind you again, always wipe the edges of your plate. You can't serve someone with a big splatter on the edge of the bowl. Come on. And then for some final touches, I did a little bit of olive oil and a little more pepper. And then last but not least, a little bit of fresh lemon. And my warm calamari salad was done. And there really wasn't anything wrong with this plate of food, per se, except it wasn't what I initially envisioned. So my brain and eyes just wouldn't let me enjoy this on its own merits. Since, like I said, I really wanted something severely seared and charred, something much closer to like a grilled calamari. So that was the problem here. But even though the squid did not char, because we only cooked it for a couple minutes, it still was very nice, very sweet, very moist, very tender. And it really did go nicely with the white beans and the wilted arugula. But like I said, that didn't matter because it was not what I wanted. I mean, I love a good peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But if you bring me one after I order a cheeseburger, we're going to have words. But anyway, the bottom line, it still made for a pretty nice lunch. And with that, we will conclude the latest episode of Chef John's Culinary Self-Flagellation. Every once in a while, the food gods throw us a surprise, to humble us a little, like we need it. But I still hope you give some variation of this a try, so head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.